Discover the incredible moment when a billionaire's autistic son calls his new housekeeper mommy. Ethan, a 42-year-old billionaire, stood by the grand window of his sprawling estate in the leafy suburbs of Chicago, feeling like a ghost in the place he called home. Outside, mothers laughed and played with their kids, effortlessly connecting in ways he struggled to understand. Out there, in that suburban paradise, life pulsed vibrantly. Inside, he felt swallowed by a silence heavy with failure, the expanse of his wealth unable to touch the deep chasm between him and his son, Lucas. Lucas, with his big, bright eyes and a world entirely his own, was an enigma wrapped in a dream Ethan couldn't seem to penetrate. Days turned into monotonous blur, filled with appointments, therapy sessions, and lonely evenings. It was during one of those stark sessions, where failure clung to the air like a fog, that Ethan made a desperate choice. He hired Maria, a 35-year-old single mother from Guatemala. Maria arrived, full of hope and trepidation. As she entered their mansion, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort. Here was this woman with her own struggles, ready to step into a world that felt foreign to both of them. The first meeting was awkward. Ethan felt every suggestion she made prickle at his protective instincts. Lucas, sensing his father's unease, clung tighter to him, his small fingers gripping Dad's arm as if he could shield himself from the world outside. Yet, as days melted into weeks, Maria's persistent warmth began whittling away at the barriers that felt so insurmountable. She laughed softly at Lucas's favorite drawings, sat patiently beside him, and offered encouragement in her gentle way. The transformation felt gradual, but it was happening. One crisp afternoon, Lucas entered the kitchen where Maria was preparing snacks. The sunlight filtered through the large windows, casting a warm glow around them. With hesitation, Lucas placed a half-finished drawing, colorful, wild swirls that resembled something between a house and a spaceship, in front of her. Maria knelt closer, her heart swelling as she took in his creation. In an almost breathless whisper, Lucas uttered, "Mommy." The word hung in the air, thick with unexpected power. Ethan's heart raced, fear flooding his mind. He stepped in, instinctively objecting, "Lucas. No, you can't." His voice cracked, protective instincts sparking like firecrackers. The tension shot through the room, palpable and suffocating. Maria's eyes fell, not from anger but grief, a mirror held up to her own longing. This moment illuminated their shared wounds, not just Lucas's and Ethan's, but Maria's, too. How could they navigate their vastly different worlds? $1 billion couldn't buy the love, the understanding that pulsed in Maria's eyes or the innocent hope in Lucas's heart. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Now, Ethan stood torn between the instinct to shield Lucas and the desperate desire for connection, questioning the fabric of family and what truly makes one. Can he let this woman become more than just a housekeeper? Can he allow the word mommy to echo in their lives without it shattering his control? The stakes had never felt higher. As silence enveloped them, Ethan wondered, could these two disparate worlds weave into a tighter bond, one that transcended preconceived notions and societal expectations? The air crackled with an energy of uncertainty, and for once, hope flickered just beyond reach. Would he take the step to embrace what his heart desperately needed? Or would fear hold him back? The next chapter of their lives teetered on the edge, waiting for a push. Ethan took a step back, the weight of Lucas's innocent declaration echoing in the pristine kitchen. The vibrant sun danced across Maria's face, illuminating a mixture of sorrow and longing. It struck Ethan like a lightning bolt. This moment could be the turning point they all needed, or it could unravel everything he had worked so hard to keep secure. "Lucas," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, the panic still coursing through him. Can you say something else? But Lucas was lost, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the room. He began to fidget with a crayon he had picked up, only holding Maria's gaze, oblivious to the clouds of confusion gathering around them. "Sweetheart," Maria said softly, doing her best to ease Ethan's fears as she placed her hand on Lucas's shoulder. "It's okay. Let him speak. He feels safe with you." Ethan could feel rage and fear bubbling inside him. Why was safety in this woman who was nothing more than an employee? He couldn't allow his son to claim her as family when the threads of their lives had only just begun to intertwine. Yet, buried beneath his defiance was a growing inkling of admiration for her courage. Closing his eyes, he wished to tear the walls of his mistrust down, if only for Lucas's sake. Days passed, and something shifted. Each evening, Maria dedicated time solely for Lucas. They shared stories of their cultures, created new drawings, and even acted out little plays in the living room. Slowly, Ethan felt drawn into their mini-world, but still held back, fearful of being displaced. Each time Lucas slipped the word mommy from his lips, Ethan bristled, that familiar knot tightening in his chest. One rainy afternoon, they sat together on a makeshift stage in the living room, with homemade props scattered around them. Lucas played a dragon while Maria acted as a brave knight. Their laughter filled the room, mixing with the soft patter of rain against the windows. Watching them, Ethan realized the lightness they shared was something he craved deeply. As the play concluded, Ethan clapped, overwhelmed by unexpected joy. "That was fantastic!" he exclaimed, genuinely smiling. The two turned towards him, Maria's eyes sparkling with gratitude for his encouragement, Lucas's face beaming at the praise. And yet, as he celebrated this simple moment, Ethan found himself at war with his thoughts. Was he allowing too much closeness? Was he abandoning Lucas to someone who could never understand the depth of their bond? The weight of ownership over his son seemed heavier than ever. Just then, Lucas rushed towards him, excitement spilling from his lips. "Did you see how I roared?" His small face lit up, all attention on his father, pouring energy into every word. "Yes," Ethan replied, squatting down to meet Lucas's eye level, trying to capture the moment. "You're the best dragon I've ever seen." For a split second, all doubts faded. But reality crashed back with the memories, the separation, the loneliness, the void that loomed whenever he thought about losing anything. "You're lucky," Lucas suddenly spoke, nodding towards Maria. "She's a great night." A tiny flame flickered in Ethan's heart. What if Lucas was right? Could Maria be the bridge they needed? Before he could follow this thought to its conclusion, the doorbell interrupted them. "Stay here," he instructed, a hint of authority in his tone. As he opened the door, he found a package, a reminder of the life he had built, a life full of walls and boundaries. He closed it behind him, staring blankly into the empty space ahead. When he re-entered the room, Lucas was still beaming. Maria watched him with soft eyes, those missed connections weaving a thread of unspoken understanding between them. With a heavy heart, Ethan took a step further into their world, promising himself this wouldn't end in another fracture. Would he find the courage to open up to the possibility of love in a form he never expected? The answer lay just at the edge of this new beginning, waiting for him to grasp it tightly. Ethan stood still, torn between inability and desire. The reality of their situation came crashing in waves. He glanced at the small, messy stage that had transformed their living room into an imaginary realm full of dragons and knights. "Mommy," the word echoed again in his mind, a gentle lapping at the shores of his heart. What if this was more than just play? What if Lucas saw something Ethan refused to acknowledge? The thought made his heart race. He knelt to Lucas's level, searching for answers in the boy's innocent gaze. "Buddy, can I ask you something?" Lucas tilted his head, curiosity piercing the bubbles of his childhood bliss. "Like what, Dad?" Ethan hesitated. "When you say Maria is a great night, do you mean she's like a mommy to you?" He held his breath, fearing the answer as he watched Lucas think it over. "She makes me feel happy. Like Lucas struggled for words. Like on the best days when you come home. Ethan's defenses trembled. Joy and pain mixed in his chest. But I'm your dad, Lucas. You know that, right? Yeah. Lucas nodded, somewhat confused. But knights help too. They fight bad guys and keep you safe. Ethan's heart flipped. Safety. The word wrapped around him tight. And what if a knight helps you feel safe, no matter who they are? Lucas beamed, his eyes sparkling like tiny stars. Then they can be a knight and a mommy. Like Maria. She helped me when I was sad about you. Sad about me? Ethan didn't want to hear this. His heart began to race again, but it wasn't from fear this time. It was a rush of desperation as he tried to cling to the pieces of his role as father. Why would you be sad, Lucas? Before Lucas could answer, Maria approached silently, placing a cup of warm apple cider on the table. Her eyes seemed to glisten with understanding. Ethan met her gaze, a silent exchange between them. He could see her heart was in this too. Lucas, can I talk to you alone for a moment? Maria asked gently. The boy nodded, playing with his dragon costume as he shuffled off a few steps, leaving Ethan tense in the moment. Do you see the way he looks at you? Maria whispered, her voice delicate but insistent. He admires you, Ethan. Just like he admires me. He sees the world through different lenses, but you're still his everything. Ethan swallowed, fighting the mixture of relief and fear that brewed in his stomach. But what if I'm not enough? What if he needs more? The truth is, he can have more than one person to love him, Maria replied softly, stepping closer. You can't let fear dictate your son's happiness. This is about him, not us. I know. Ethan snapped, surprising himself. But it feels like I'm losing him. And what if something happens, and I can't be his dad anymore? Look at the way Lucas lights up when you walk in. Her voice was soothing, wrapping around him like a warm blanket. You will always be his dad. That fact won't change. But he might grow to love more. Ethan's breath hitched. And what if it's not safe? What if Ethan, she interrupted gently, love doesn't work like that. It doesn't diminish, it grows. Fear can't be your guide. Silence fell between them, charged with something unspoken. Suddenly, Lucas burst back in, his face red with excitement. Dad, guess what? Maria taught me how to roar like a real dragon. Can you hear it? He let out a fierce roar, bouncing on his toes with glee. Overwhelmed by the sheer joy radiating from his son, Ethan felt an urge to embrace this moment, to let himself be part of this beautiful mess. But he hesitated, clouded by the depths of his worries. Show me, buddy, he said, determination rising within him. Show me your best roar. As Lucas unleashed another ear-splitting roar, Ethan found himself laughing, feeling the grip of fear begin to loosen, if only a little. He could see at this new world where love didn't demand exclusivity but flourished in community. With Lucas leading the dragon charge into their playful kingdom of imagination, Ethan caught a glimpse of what could be. Maybe this was his opportunity to step beyond his fears. Would he dare to cross that threshold? As he watched Lucas spin into another grand roar, a gut-wrenching uncertainty pulled at him, whispering questions that dug deep. Would he let go? Could he share his son? And in doing so, would he find the strength to embrace love anew? A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. The moment of truth was brewing just outside. He froze, heart pounding, as he held back an instinctive reaction. What lay waiting beyond that door could change everything. Would he be ready? Ethan's breath caught as he walked slowly toward the door, his heart racing like a runaway train. Each step felt heavy, pulling him back, but an unseen force of hope urged him forward. What was behind that door? He placed his hand on the doorknob, his palms slick with sweat. As he turned it slowly, the door creaked open to reveal a figure silhouetted against the dim light of the hallway. Ethan squinted, squashing down the fear that bubbled to the surface. Standing there was Paul, his neighbor and a father himself. The worry etched in Paul's features worried Ethan more than he could admit. "Hey, Ethan," Paul began, his voice steady but laced with concern. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Ethan shook his head, trying to mask the tension that writhed beneath his skin. "Not at all. Just, we were playing." He gestured vaguely inside, where Lucas was still buzzing with excitement, still roaring like the dragon he claimed to be. "I wanted to check in," Paul replied, stepping over the threshold, his eyes flickering toward Lucas. "I heard some things that concerned me, about Maria." "Concerned? What do you mean?" The knot in Ethan's stomach tightened. Paul hesitated, his brow furrowing deeper. "Just I'm worried about how this is affecting Lucas. Change is hard for kids, especially after everything. I just thought it'd be worth bringing it up." Ethan felt a wall go up inside him, protecting against the incoming onslaught of doubt. "You think he can't handle it?" "No," Paul replied, quickly shaking his head. "That's not what I mean. But I've seen how children react when they feel like they have to choose. I just want to be sure you're aware." Ethan's heart ached, images of Lucas expressing confusion flooded his mind. He had been standing at the crossroads of love and fear, and now he felt the life they had built together threatened. "I just don't know I want to be enough." What if he thinks he needs to pick one? Sometimes, they just want love. They don't always see it like we do. Paul's kindness pierced through Ethan's turmoil, but it also opened the floodgates of guilt. Lucas interrupted, bouncing into view once again, his face aglow. "Dad! Can I show Paul my dragon roar?" Ethan caught Paul's eyes, and they both smiled, but the smile felt heavy. "Sure, buddy," Ethan said. "Let us hear it." With an exaggerated flourish, Lucas let out his best roar which echoed off the walls, filling the space with joy. The sound reverberated through Ethan's heart, wrapping him in warmth. "See?" Paul said, his tone lighter now. "He is happy. Happy, but at what cost?" The thought spiraled through Ethan's mind, nagging like an itch he couldn't reach. Paul clapped his hands together, breaking Ethan's spiral. "You know, when I first got divorced, I was terrified of what that would mean for my daughter. I was stuck in a loop of enough too. But the more love you can give, the less it feels like a limitation." Marshalling the fear swirling inside him, Ethan looked back at Lucas, his sweet boy still half lost in his world of imagination, half waiting for his father's connection. Paul's words started to settle like seeds in his heart. "What if I'm not ready for this?" Ethan asked softly, his voice cracking like glass. "Then take it one day at a time," Paul said. "One roar at a time." The genuine warmth in Paul's grin melted a piece of the icy grip fear had on Ethan. One day at a time felt more manageable. But still, a storm churned within him. As Lucas returned to reenacting epic battles, Ethan felt a flicker of warmth. Maybe he could learn to embrace this new side of love. But even as peace began to settle, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle lay ahead. What would happen when the playfulness faded, and the truth of his doubts came crashing back? What if I take the leap? He wondered. As the laughter of his son combined with Paul's presence, a quiet resolve rose in him. But questions still nagged him: would love truly conquer his fears, or would it reveal scars he wasn't ready to confront? Whatever lay ahead, Ethan sensed one thing: the journey was just beginning. And how far would he go to fight for his son's happiness? Paul's eyes softened as he watched Lucas prancing around the living room, oblivious to the undercurrents of anxiety swirling in the air. Ethan followed his gaze, and for a brief moment, he let himself be captivated by Lucas's laughter. It was pure, unadulterated joy, the kind of sound that filled a space with light. But as quickly as it came, doubt crashed into him like a freight train. "Paul," Ethan began, his voice just above a whisper. What if Lucas feels torn? What if this is harder on him than we see? Before Paul could reply, Lucas ran up to him, a wide grin plastered on his face. Paul! Look at my dragon, he is super strong. Ethan felt a swell of pride and bittersweetness at the same time. Lucas's innocent joy clashed with the shadows of uncertainty looming behind him. Wow! That's the fiercest dragon I've ever seen. Paul exclaimed, kneeling down to be at eye level with Lucas. The transition of emotions in Ethan's heart was a turbulent one. He admired how effortlessly Paul engaged with his son, wishing he could be as uninhibited, as free of worry. Ethan turned his gaze out the window, watching the fading sunlight paint the sky with hues of orange and pink. It was easier before. I could protect him from everything but now. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. Paul's hand rested on Ethan's shoulder, grounding him. Change can bring fear, but it can also bring growth. You're here for him, fighting for him. That's what matters most. Ethan felt warmth at the contact. But what if my fighting isn't enough? The weight of vulnerability sat heavily on his chest. He thought back to the tumultuous weeks since Maria had moved out, the broken dreams of being a family now intertwining with his desperate desire to provide for Lucas. Would he ever find a way to navigate this new world they were thrust into? Lucas's laughter resounded again, brighter than before. Dad! I'm flying! He had taken a few leaps around the living room, each jump sending him soaring in his own extraordinary realm, and Ethan couldn't help but smile. There was magic in the way children played, unbound by circumstance or fear. Just for a moment, Ethan let that magic wrap around him. You know, Paul said, pulling him back from his thoughts, I had to let my daughter feel her feelings, too. It took time, but they learned to adapt. You'll find your way together. His words felt like a lifeline. As Ethan watched Lucas play, he began to comprehend that love didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be present. Taking a deep breath, he squared his shoulders, letting the weight of despair lift just a little. Maybe I just need to ask him, he thought. Talk to him about what he is feeling, make it normal. The idea sparked a flicker of hope inside him, lighting the way. But as he looked at Lucas again, a lingering concern knotted in his stomach. What if Lucas didn't know how to express his fears? What if he felt stuck in a whirlwind of confusion? Ethan, Paul called softly, pulling him back from his anxious thoughts. Take that leap. You'll be surprised how much strength you have when it comes to your son. Ethan nodded, resolve hardening within him. I will, he replied, his voice steadier than it had been in days. He clung to the belief that they could bridge this gap. Just then, Lucas dashed over, a sudden furrowed brow disrupting his joy. Dad! Can we fight the fire-breathing monster together? Ethan's heart broke a little and filled at the same time. Of course, buddy. We'll take on any monster together. The three of them dove into the battle, laughter mingling with the shouts of imaginary warriors. They played and fought side by side, etching an even deeper bond as the palpable fears drifted further away. But lurking in the background was still a sense of uncertainty. Ethan caught himself thinking, what if, when the dust settled, the real battles began? Would they be prepared to face the fire-breathing dragon of reality? As the laughter simmered down and evening shadows crept along the walls, Ethan realized this might only be the beginning. He felt the weight of love balanced on the precarious edge of acceptance. And in that moment, one question echoed in his mind: how would they confront not just imaginary fears, but the shortcomings of an uncertain future? Ethan's heart raced as the final glow of sunset faded from the window. The living room, once vibrant with the echoes of laughter and lively imagination, now felt surreal, caught between the reality of his worries and the magic of the moment. Lucas tossed his toy dragon onto the couch, eyes wide with excitement. Can we have a snack, Dad? Dragons need snacks too. Ethan chuckled softly, swept away by the innocence of his son's enthusiasm. Absolutely, buddy. What do dragons eat? Pizza. Dragons love pizza. Lucas's imagination wove a delightful thread through the mundane. Ethan grabbed a couple of slices from the fridge, the aroma filling the room. As they munched on the gooey, cheesy slices, it dawned on Ethan, could snacking together be an opening for conversation? "Hey, Lucas," he started, cautiously. "I've been thinking, do you ever feel sad or confused about things?" Lucas paused mid-bite, pondering the question. Sometimes when I miss Mommy." The honesty in his voice hit Ethan like a wave, pulling him under, and he needed to tread carefully. "Yeah, I understand," Ethan said, swallowing hard. "I miss her too. It's okay to feel that way. We can talk about it, you know." Lucas put down his slice and looked up, the sincerity of his gaze piercing through Ethan's resolve. "But will you always be my dad? Even if you're sad?" Tears stung the corners of Ethan's eyes. "Always," he affirmed, fighting to maintain control. "I will always be here for you. No matter what." Paul watched from the sidelines, pride swelling as he observed Ethan bravely navigate the delicate terrain of their new reality. He knew the moments they were sharing, vulnerable, raw, and real, were like stones laid to build a bridge. Lucas blinked, processing. "So if I feel scared, I can tell you?" Ethan leaned closer, the connection between them tightening like a lifeline. "Absolutely, buddy. Scared is better out than in. I want to help you." The little boy nodded, the gears of maturity slowly turning in his mind. "Okay." He picked up his dragon again and swung it over his head triumphantly. "Then we can fly to the pizza castle." Ethan let out a hearty laugh, grateful for Lucas's ability to transform moments of heaviness into something uplifting. "Yes. Onward to the pizza castle." As they finished their snack, Lucas's face glowed with joy again, but Ethan still felt the weight of their reality lurking in the corners. The facade of confidence he tried to wear for Lucas was already fraying around the edges. "What if I'm not enough?" The thought loomed like a shadow. It was Paul who broke his reverie. "You are already doing enough." Ethan turned to Paul, wanting assurance but fearing what was left unspoken. "What if my best isn't good enough for him?" Paul's brow furrowed. "You're not perfect, and you don't have to be. You show up. You love him. That's what matters. Trust yourself." As the room settled into a comfortable silence, Ethan's thoughts turned inward. Paul's words hung over him like a comforting blanket. He felt that perhaps, just perhaps, navigating this unfamiliar landscape didn't require him to have all the answers, only the willingness to be there for Lucas through dragons and the realities that came with them. "Hey, Dad." Lucas's voice broke through his reflections. "Can my dragon help me fight the fire-breathing monster at school tomorrow?" Ethan chuckled, heartwarming with the flicker of excitement. "Of course. With your dragon, nothing can stand in your way." Just then, the doorbell rang, abruptly interrupting their moment. Ethan's heart skipped. Who could it be? As he shared an uncertain glance with Paul, his instincts prickled, pulling him back to the undercurrents of their recent past. Was it just an innocent visitor, or could it be another challenge waiting to unfold? Ooh. Maybe it's a wizard. Lucas bounced on the balls of his feet, pure anticipation bursting from him. With a slight hesitation, Ethan made his way to the door, banners of hope and uncertainty dancing in his chest. Who stood on the other side could change everything. Ethan took a deep breath and opened the door. His heart thudded in his chest, almost synchronizing with the wild expectations of Lucas. But standing there was not a wizard, nor any fantastical creature, just an ordinary figure wrapped in a large coat against the evening chill. A woman, maybe in her 30s, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, looked up with warm, brown eyes that seemed to search for something familiar. "Hi, I'm Emma," she introduced herself with a friendly smile. "I'm here about the housekeeper position." Ethan blinked, momentarily taken aback. "Oh, right. The position. He glanced back at Lucas, whose curiosity sparkled like stars. The moment felt oddly surreal, as if inviting yet another wave of change into their already tangled lives. "Can I help?" Lucas asked, gliding to Ethan's side, his big, innocent eyes questioning. "Sure, buddy." "Emma, this is Lucas," Ethan said, his voice trembling slightly. "He likes dragons and pizza castles." "Nice to meet you, Lucas." Emma smiled down at him. "I love dragons too. Which one is your favorite?" The fire-breathing one." Lucas exclaimed, brightening further. "He can fly super fast." Ethan watched the two exchange smiles, the connection building effortlessly, and a flicker of comfort warmed him. Maybe this woman could bring a fresh breath into their lives. "Let us talk inside," Ethan suggested, stepping aside to let her in. He busied himself in the back of his mind, contemplating how this new presence would shift their dynamics. Emma entered, scanning the cozy, familiar surroundings. "Your home is lovely," she remarked, her voice gentle, grounding. "Thanks," Ethan replied, unsure if he was ready for the layers of complexity that could unfold under this new arrangement. As they settled into the living room, Lucas climbed back onto the couch, his dragon in hand, drumming his fingers on the fabric. "So, what do you do when there's a fire-breathing monster, Emma?" Lucas piped up, full of hope. Emma crouched beside him. "Well, I would call on the mighty dragon for help, of course. Together, we'd figure out how to fly above the flames, or distract the monster with a pile of pizza." Lucas giggled, picturing the scenario in his head, which made Ethan smile. Their light-hearted exchange felt momentarily protective, shielding them from the unsettled heaviness that loomed just out of sight. Ethan took a seat, the room oddly peaceful. There was something soothing about Emma's ease with Lucas that hinted at an understanding deeper than mere interactions. Could this be a turn toward stability? Yet, his wariness clawed in the background. "Where did you work before, Emma?" he asked cautiously, trying to gauge the potential fit, trying to gain control over the unfamiliar waters they were wading into. "Oh, I helped out at an autism center," she replied, her tone warm but firm. "I learned a lot about communication styles and how to connect in different ways. It was very rewarding." The mention of the center struck a chord in Ethan. It felt oddly comforting, like a sign. Paul's words echoed through his mind, "You don't have to be perfect." Just as he was about to respond, the air shifted slightly. Lucas interjected, his voice filled with sincerity. "Can you be my new mom?" Ethan's heart lurched. The question hung heavily in the air, weaving a web of expectations and fears. Emma's expression went soft and contemplative, her blankness shifting into compassion. "I think I can be a really good friend, Lucas," she replied, her voice sincere but gentle, as if treading carefully across fragile ground. Ethan felt the room close in around him. This was a pivotal moment where hope battled vulnerability. Suddenly, uncertainty flooded his mind again. Was it too soon? As Lucas's excitement brightened the room, Ethan's instincts pulled at him, wrestling with the worry that maybe, diving into this new relationship could lead to unforeseen consequences. In that moment, he understood that every step forward seemed wrapped in the unknown. "Dad?" Lucas's wide eyes bore into Ethan's soul, searching for direction. What if she could? Would that be okay? Ethan's heart tightened. The walls of their world had shifted yet again. Before he could answer, the door creaked open, and Paul peeked inside, sensing the charged atmosphere. "What is going on in here?" Ethan looked at Lucas, the anxious heat pooling in his stomach. What path were they about to take? "Just talking," he said, uncertainty dripping from the words. And as the three awaited Ethan's next move, the uncertainty crackled in the air like distant thunder. What decision lay ahead, and how would it impact the fragile world he was trying to hold together? Ethan's heart raced as he met Paul's gaze. It was a delicate balance, this moment. Lucas's innocent question hung, a shimmering thread connecting them to endless possibilities. Ethan could feel Paul's eyes, sharp and aware, weighing the air thick with unspoken words. Just talking, he repeated, buying time. His mind raced, caught between Lucas's hopeful gaze and the reality of their situation. Emma's expression shifted subtly, her kindness radiating like warmth from a hearth. "Hey, Lucas," Paul said, kneeling down, trying to pierce through the tension, "why don't we let your dad answer Emma's question about the housekeeper position?" Lucas nodded, his enthusiasm crashing slightly as he settled back into the couch. "Okay," he said softly, still holding tightly to his dragon, a tangible link to his imagination. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to force the storm of thoughts to calm. He turned to Emma, wanting to appreciate this newfound possibility but still feeling the weight of every past decision. I appreciate you wanting to connect. It means a lot, especially for Lucas." The room was quiet except for the soft rustling of fabric as Emma shifted in her seat. "I understand it's a lot to take in," she said gently. "I'm here to help, and I want to support both of you in any way I can. That also means respecting how things are right now." Ethan absorbed her words, but doubt lingered, whispering reminders of past mistakes, past scars. His voice trembled slightly as he asked, "And if, the more we talk, what if Lucas sees you differently?" Emma's eyes shined with a glimmer of understanding. "I think it's normal for children to crave connection, especially when things are uncertain. But those feelings need time. I want to be a friend, first." "Okay," Ethan replied, the tightness in his chest slowly loosening, but not disappearing. He glanced at Lucas. His son's eyes sparkled with curiosity, a reflection of hope that pattered like rain against the windows. "Lucas," Paul said gently, trying to shift the mood, "why don't you show Emma your favorite dragon? I bet she'd love to hear all about it." "Yes." Lucas's excitement reignited like a flame, and he was quickly off the couch, bouncing back to Emma. "Watch." He waved his dragon, a green and gold creature with tiny wings, igniting a new storyline that only he could see. Ethan leaned against the edge of the couch, a protective barrier between Lucas's bright imagination and his own whirlpool of anxiety. He watched as Lucas animatedly described the dragon's adventures and how it soared above clouds, set ablaze by its bold spirit. Emma listened intently, nodding and smiling, pulling Lucas into a world built from his dreams. "That sounds amazing. What kind of adventures does he go on when he gets to the magical pizza castle?" "I built it," Lucas exclaimed, his grin wide, his hands in animated gestures. "There are pepperoni waterfalls." Ethan felt warmth seep into the edges of his heart. This was the connection they needed, a laughter that felt both healing and hopeful. Emma's laughter mingled with Lucas's, forming a melody that danced through the living room space. But just as Ethan began to breathe a little easier, he noticed the clock ticking in the background, a reminder of how fleeting moments could be. The world outside would still compete for their attention. "Emma, what would you need from us?" Ethan asked, his heart pounding anew. "If you decide to take this job, what are your expectations?" Emma paused, her focus shifting to him, sincerity smearing her brown eyes with determination. "Communication," she said firmly. "It's the cornerstone of any partnership, and I'm ready to forge this path together. But it begins with trust." Trust. A weighty word that stirred something within Ethan. Did he have it in him to open that door, to allow someone in to share their journey? As Ethan wrestled with the thought, Lucas still engaged in animated storytelling, he noticed a flicker of uncertainty in Emma's demeanor. Perhaps she realized how much risk she was willing to take too. Just then, the doorbell rang, jolting Ethan back into the present. They all turned towards the sound. Who could that be? "Stay here," Ethan instructed as he moved toward the front door, his pulse racing again. Was this another shift in their fragile world? He opened the door, and the sight made his breath hitch. A tall figure, face half hidden behind a scarf, stood shivering in the evening chill. What kind of storm was this visitor bringing? "Ethan. It's me, can we talk?" A piece of his past, unexpectedly present. He felt the ground beneath shifting again. Would this conversation unravel the fragile thread they were starting to weave with Emma, or could it reinforce it? Ethan stood speechless, the moment now felt even heavier than before. He needed to decide, was he ready to confront the past where doubt lingered, or would he protect this newfound connection that felt so right? As the door opened wider, the reality of it all settled in. What lay beyond could change everything. And with a heart full of dread and hope, he took a step closer. Ethan felt a rush of conflicting emotions as he recognized the voice, a mixture of nostalgia and fear coursing through him. He swallowed hard, wanting to scream and smile at the same time. "Julia?" he finally managed, his voice barely a whisper. The figure stepped into the light, and he could finally see her clearly. Julia, with her familiar, bright eyes filled with uncertainty. The years had changed her. There were lines around her mouth, shadows under her cheeks, yet she still held that light, that spark he once admired. "Ethan, I know it's been a long time," she said, her voice steady but warm, like a soft wave lapping against a shore. The silence hung between them like a heavy curtain. He could hear the muffled sounds of Lucas's laughter from the living room, where Emma was now weaving a bond with his son. Had she heard Julia's voice too? Did she sense the history that loomed like an uninvited guest? "Yeah, it has." Ethan took a step back, unsure of what to say. Memories swirled in his mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind. The happiness, the heartache, the reasons why she had walked away in the first place. "What are you doing here?" Julia hesitated, her gaze darting to the living room. I just got back into town. I heard you were living here, and I wanted to see how you were doing. And, I wanted to talk about Lucas." The mention of Lucas felt like a punch in the gut. "You have to see him," Ethan replied, the edge of defensiveness creeping into his tone. "No, I came to see you, Ethan." Her voice was pleading, not accusatory. "I want to know how he is. And I want to help. I didn't mean for things to end the way they did." As Ethan grappled with her words, he could feel the weight of his choices pressing down on him. Could the past open old wounds? Or might it provide healing, a chance to rewrite their narrative? He was caught like a deer in headlights, paralyzed by the thought of his son's reaction if Julia was to step back into their lives. "We were doing okay," he managed, glancing toward the living room. "I'm trying to create a stable environment for Lucas. A place he can thrive." "I understand that," Julia said, her voice softening, almost like a melody. "I never meant to disrupt anything. I miss him." The sincerity in her eyes surprised Ethan. It wasn't just guilt he saw, it was a longing that mirrored his own. Did he feel the same way about her? Did he want her back? The thought sent his heart racing again, but it was drowning in uncertainty. He breathed deeply, wrestling internally between the life he envisioned with Emma and this sudden appearance of Julia. "What do you want from me, Julia?" he finally asked, his voice firm. "After all this time?" "I want a second chance for all of us," she said, her voice trembling now. "Please, let me show you how much I care. I want to be a part of Lucas's life again, to support you and him." Ethan felt as if a pendulum were swinging above him, one side painted with his desire for harmony and love, the other marked with fear of repeating past mistakes. Could he let Julia into their lives, knowing how delicate their new routine was? Time seemed to stretch as he stared, waiting for Lucas's excited voice to break through the tension. Just then, he heard his son calling from the living room, "Daddy. Emma just made up a story about my dragon." Ethan turned back to Julia. "You need to understand this is a fragile moment for us. Introducing you to him, it's not something I can take lightly." "Ethan, please." Her voice softened with urgency. "If you don't let me in now, I might lose the chance to be a part of his life again." As Ethan weighed his options, his heart tugged in opposing directions. Could he be the bridge between his past and his son's future? A decision loomed, a moment that could define everything. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the doorbell chimed again, pulling both of their attention. Who else could it be? Ethan muttered, a mix of exasperation and anxiety swirling within him. Whatever lay beyond the door, he had a feeling it could either fracture everything he was trying to build or solidify it. And as he reached for the doorknob, he wondered, was he prepared for whatever storm awaited him? With a determined breath, he opened the door yet again. As Ethan swung open the door, the sunlight poured in, illuminating the figure standing before him. It was an unexpected sight: his mother, who looked older but undeniably vibrant. The wrinkles on her face marked the passage of time, and her eyes sparkled with a mix of concern and determination. "Mom." Ethan breathed, stunned. "Ethan, honey, can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice laced with warmth, but an urgency simmered beneath it. He hesitated, looking between her and the living room where he could hear Lucas and Emma's laughter mingling. How much was he willing to unravel? "Now. You just showed up, I know, but I've been thinking," his mother replied, her tone gentle yet firm. "We've both been avoiding what needs to be said. About you, Julia, and most importantly, Lucas. You need to make a choice." Ethan's heart raced. She was right, this was more than just a matter of opening a door. It was time for him to confront the swirling chaos of his life and the choices that loomed around him. A choice? He echoed, stepping aside hesitantly to let her in. "Let us talk," she said as they moved deeper into the house. Inside, Julia shifted awkwardly, her eyes darting between Ethan and his mother. The tension was palpable. Lucas glanced up briefly, the dragon tucked under one arm, but quickly returned to his imaginative world with Emma. "We're saving the pizza castle from the trolls," he shouted, entirely lost in the moment. Ethan's mother took a seat at the edge of the couch. "I wanted to talk to you about the importance of family," she said, her voice steady and measured. "You've built a world of protection around Lucas, and I admire that. But maybe you're forgetting that family can take many forms." Ethan's brows furrowed. "What are you saying? That I should just invite Julia back into our lives?" "I'm not saying that," she replied. "But denying Lucas the chance to know his mother might cause more harm than good. He deserves the love of both parents, no matter how complicated things may seem." "I'm trying to keep him safe," Ethan insisted, tension creeping back into his voice. "I don't want to confuse him." "I understand that," she murmured, compassion shining through. "But love isn't about perfection, Ethan. It's about connection, embracing the people who nourish our souls, even if they aren't in the tidy packages we want them to be." Ethan felt the knot in his chest tighten further. "You don't understand how messy this feels. I'm trying to move forward while the past keeps peeking in." "Life is messy," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "But you have to decide how to move through that mess. What example do you want to set for Lucas? That love can't be shared? Or that it can grow stronger even through struggles?" The words resonated in his heart, opening a door he hadn't seen before. As he watched Lucas dart around, joy pouring from him like sunlight through leaves, Ethan felt the weight lift slightly. Julia chimed in, her voice soft yet thick with emotion. "I know I've made mistakes. But I'm here to make amends. To show Lucas he is loved, no matter how imperfectly I do it." Ethan studied her face. There was sincerity there, a yearning for connection unclouded by fear. "I see you, and I want to believe you," he admitted, letting his guard down slightly. "But how do I do this?" "Start by asking yourself what you want," his mother urged. "What does Lucas need?" Sometimes, the most courageous choice is to let love flow freely. His heart ached with the weight of their words. He felt lost at that crossroads of the past and a future yet unknown. "Ethan," Julia said quietly, searching his eyes. "Please, allow us the chance. I promise to honor your boundaries. I just want to be a part of his life." He could see it in her eyes, the longing, the love. Taking a deep breath, he glanced over at Lucas, who was still giggling with Emma, launching into an imaginary battle. This could either be a disaster or the beginning of something special, he thought, realizing how daunting the choices truly were. I need time to consider everything, he finally said firmly. But I don't want Lucas to feel caught in the middle. If we do this, it has to be about him. As he spoke those words, something inside him shifted, like a river opening up after a solid winter freeze. There was a flicker of hope as he grasped for that connection they all yearned for. His mother nodded, her expression full of love. Take time. Just be open with him and each other. You will figure this out. Suddenly, Lucas piped up from where he played with Emma. Dad! Look! We saved the pizza castle. His voice was bright, filled with that innocent zest that reminded Ethan of love's purest essence. Ethan felt a new resolve surge in him, warmed by the joyous laughter filling the air. You did, buddy. He knelt, embracing every spark of magic his son radiated. You're the best dragon saver ever. And in that threadbare moment filled with laughter, Ethan realized that maybe love was all around them, waiting to be embraced not as a burden but as a collective joy. His heart rushed forward. He looked back at Julia and his mother, both watching with hope evident in their eyes. I'll reach out, he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. I'll make it work. And as the shadows lifted slightly, he felt a renewed sense of adventure stir within him. This journey could be complicated, but one thing felt clear: it was time he took the leap into this uncertain but beautifully woven tapestry of their lives. As laughter filled the room, the shadows seemed to dissipate. Love, in all its messy glory, was ready to root itself deeper, bridging gaps that once felt insurmountable. Ethan took a deep breath, standing on the brink of transformation. With the walls crumbling, he would rediscover the meaning of family not through control or avoidance, but through connection and shared moments. And with hope in his heart, he turned towards the laughter, stepping forward into this new world where everything was yet to be written. Now is the time, friends. If you enjoyed this journey of love, courage, and transformation, you need to subscribe immediately to catch the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Comment down below your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of hope and connection. Your support is the fuel that keeps our community alive.